It started with a card. A simple wedding announcement, buried beneath junk mail and pre-approved credit offers. I almost tossed it without looking. But something about the cardstock caught my eye. Smooth, white, with delicate edging. Classy. On the right, a photo of a couple walking barefoot on a beach. On the left, a short, almost generic message in black font. Just married. David and Emma. June 6th, Acadia. My stomach clenched. David was my younger brother. And David wasn't dating anyone. Hell, he was practically allergic to commitment. The guy once backed out of a second date because the woman liked cats. And here he was married? I looked closer at the photo. And yep, it was him. David. Same crooked nose, same shy smile, same posture like he was caught off guard. He looked genuinely happy, walking hand in hand with a woman I'd never seen before. Her long, dark hair blew across her face, and one hand was lifted, partially covering her eyes, as if blocking the sun, or maybe the camera. Weird choice for a wedding photo. I thought that was odd even before things got worse. Still, I figured it was a joke. Had to be. So I called him. 6 rings, then a click. Hello. David, I said, grinning. Well, mazel fucking tov. He hesitated. Huh. I held the card in one hand and peered at the photo again. So, who's the lucky gal? Another pause. Longer this time. What the hell are you talking about, man? And just like that, the air shifted. I sent him a picture of the announcement, expecting him to laugh. But instead, silence. Long, uncomfortable silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat. I've never seen this before. I waited for the punchline. It never came. He sounded rattled. Not confused. Not amused. Just off. I asked if maybe one of his friends was messing with him. He said maybe. But how would they know my address? Or our parents? Because when I checked in with them later, they'd received the same card. And they were not taking it as a joke. My mom was halfway to booking a flight before I told her David hadn't actually gotten married. That it was probably some elaborate prank. She didn't sound convinced. Neither was I. After hanging up, I started running through every Emma we'd ever known. Childhood friends. High school classmates. College acquaintances. Exes. Brief flings. Ghosted Tinder matches. You'd be surprised how many Emmas drift through your life once you start looking. But none of them made sense. None of them had ever gotten close enough to David to be in that photo. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept circling back to the announcement. Something about the woman's pose, it gnawed at me. Why cover her eyes? Why print it like that? Was she shy? Or hiding something? Then, around 2 a.m., my phone rang. David's name lit up the screen. I squinted at it, confused. Maybe he'd found the answer. Maybe the joke had unraveled. I picked up. Hey, I muttered. You figure it? But it wasn't David. It was a woman. Her voice was slow, soft, almost melodic. Hello, she said. I sat straight up in bed. Who is this? A long pause. Then, yes, this is David's apartment. Click. I stared at the phone, chilled. I double-checked the screen. It was David's number. I called him back immediately. No answer. Texted. Called again. Nothing. Now, was it possible he had a woman over? Sure. But something didn't feel right. I don't know if it was the flatness in her voice, or the way she spoke like she wasn't used to saying the words. Either way, I needed to know he was okay. So I called Mike, David's neighbor, 2 floors down. A good guy. Didn't ask too many questions. I told him I was worried and asked if he'd knock on David's door, just to be sure. He said he'd check. 5 minutes later, Mike texted back. He's fine. Asleep. Alone. He even sent a picture, David snoring, arm draped across his forehead. So then, who the hell had called me? And why? And how? Because David's phone log showed a call had gone out to me. From his phone. At the exact time mine rang. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring at the wedding announcement. I still couldn't place the woman. Couldn't shake the discomfort I felt looking at her. And that's when I saw it. The mouth. It looked normal at first. But the longer I stared, the more I realized something was wrong. It had been flipped. Literally turned upside down. Just subtle enough to go unnoticed unless you were searching for it. But once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Not a glitch. Not a mistake. Intentional. Like she was smiling. Wrong. I couldn't stop looking at the photo. At that upside-down smile. The rest of the image, the waves, the breeze, David's open joy, it was all so real. But her? She looked unfinished. like she was part of the scene, but didn't belong in it. I grabbed my phone and texted David again. Dude, that wasn't a normal picture. Her mouth's flipped. Like, literally reversed. This thing is messed up. He didn't reply. I tried calling. Voicemail. I figured he was busy. Maybe still asleep. Maybe hungover. But the longer I waited, the worse the silence felt. That creeping feeling, the one that started with the call from Emma, was back. Stronger. By evening, I hadn't heard from him. That wasn't normal. So I called Mike again. Hey, I said. Could you check on David for me? He's not answering his phone. Mike sighed. Yeah, sure. Want me to text you after? Please. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Then he called. I answered immediately. He's not there, Mike said. I knocked, rang, called his name. No answer. I even tried the door, unlocked. I stepped inside. My stomach turned. And, it's weird. His phone's on the table. Wallet too. Lights off. No sign of struggle, but he hesitated. I got a weird feeling, man. The kind you get right before something bad happens. Call the cops, I said. Report him missing. But Mike didn't reply right away. Instead, he whispered, hang on. Rustling. Footsteps. Then, dude, there's a card here. What? Another one. Like the wedding announcement. Same style. Except this one. His voice lowered to a whisper. It's addressed to Emma. My pulse spiked. What does it say? Another pause. Then, just her name. First name only. In huge letters across the front. And on the back. Silence. Mike? He exhaled slowly. It says, he belongs to her now. That night, I barely slept. I kept playing our last conversation over in my head. The way David hesitated. How seriously he'd reacted to the card. And how, despite his usual sarcasm and chill, something about this had shaken him. Now he was gone. And someone, or something, wanted me to know. Emma had him. The next morning, I started making calls. Hospitals. Jails. Friends. Coworkers. No one had seen him. No one had heard from him since the day the card arrived. I messaged mutual contacts. Some hadn't even realized he was missing. A few had heard of the card, others hadn't. But none had seen the photo. When I sent it to one friend, just to see what she thought, her response chilled me. That's not a real woman. What do you mean? Look at her arms. Look at the shadows. They don't match the light. Someone pasted her in. But the photo wasn't digital. It was printed on cardstock. Professionally. Glossy. How do you Photoshop a real print? I visited my parents that evening. I wanted to show them the card again. I wanted to see their reactions, really study their faces. My mom still had it. She kept it on the kitchen table, half convinced it was some mix-up, and we were all being dramatic. Until she took another look. Her fingers trembled as she turned the card over. And when she focused on Emma's obscured face, she squinted. Wait, she said. What's wrong with her? You see it now? I asked. My dad peered over her shoulder. Is her face mirrored? They both went pale. Then my mom looked at me. I don't like this. Neither do I. I slept in my old room that night. Around 3 a.m., I woke to a soft, rhythmic sound. Not quite a knock. More like tapping. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. Coming from the hallway outside my door. I sat up in bed, every muscle tense. Mom. I called. No answer. Dad. Nothing. I grabbed my phone. The screen lit up. One notification. Incoming call, David. I stared at it. The phone kept ringing. And ringing. I answered. David. There was static. Then a whisper. Not a voice. A breath. And then. Emma, it said. Then the call dropped. The next morning, I showed my phone to my parents. My mom turned white as a sheet. My dad stared at the screen, frozen. This is getting out of hand, he muttered. Someone's messing with you. But it didn't feel like a prank. It felt deliberate. Targeted. I tried calling the number back. Straight to voicemail. No option to leave a message. Just a flat, robotic voice. This user is no longer available. Later that day, Mike called again. He sounded shaken. Hey, you're not gonna believe this, he said. I had someone look into David's apartment entry logs. He paused. No one's entered since Tuesday. And here's the weird part. What? Cameras glitched that day. Just for 2 minutes. The same 2 minutes David vanished. I started looking up old Emmas. Anyone from our childhood. School. College. I dug into yearbooks. News clippings. Online archives. And that's when I found something I'd forgotten. A news article from our high school. Headline: Student tragedy. Emma K. found dead behind lockers. I remembered now. She had slipped. Some freak accident. Positional asphyxia, they said. David had a class with her. They barely spoke, as far as I knew. But I remembered him crying at the funeral. Quietly. Alone. That night, another envelope appeared. Slipped under my door. No address. No stamp. Just my name. Handwritten. Inside? A single photo. Blurry. Lores. But unmistakable. David. Standing at the edge of a beach. And beside him? Emma. Still covering her eyes. Still smiling that upside-down smile. I stared at the photo all night. My brother. Standing beside a woman whose face still didn't fully exist. She looked the same in every photo, same body angle, same covered eyes, same inverted smile. Like she couldn't be captured. Like she refused to be seen. And somehow, this photo had made its way under my door. That detail haunted me more than anything. She, or whoever was behind this, knew where I lived. This wasn't just about David anymore. This was about me. The next morning, I drove back to David's apartment. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Mike met me outside. He looked tired. Pale. Like he hadn't slept since this started. I haven't been back up there, he admitted. Not since I found that card addressed to Emma. We climbed the stairs in silence. The hallway buzzed faintly with bad wiring. One of the lights flickered. David's door was still ajar. The air inside was cold. Stale. Like no one had breathed it in days. I walked slowly through each room. His keys were still in the bowl by the door. Jacket on the hook. Phone on the table, screen dead, no charger. Everything exactly where he'd left it. Except one thing. The wall above his bed. It had been bare the last time I saw it. Now, it was covered in writing. Red ink. Jagged handwriting. Over and over. The same sentence. She never left. I stepped closer. My breath caught. Because scrawled between those lines, tucked in the margins, was something else. A date. June 6th. The date on the wedding announcement. The day she claimed him. I took photos of the wall. Every corner. Every line. Then I left. Something told me I shouldn't be there when the sun went down. Back home, I spread everything out on my kitchen table. The original wedding card. The second one addressed to Emma. The photo left under my door. Printouts of Emma's obituary from high school. A screenshot of the June 6th date. Phone records showing the 3 a.m. call. Every piece told me the same thing. This wasn't random. This was ritual. That night, I dreamed of her for the first time. In the dream, I was underwater. Dark. Silent. Still. She floated toward me slowly. Her body bent at unnatural angles, like her joints weren't built for this world. Her hair spread out around her like ink in water. And just before she reached me, I woke to the sound of my phone ringing. The screen glowed. Incoming call, David. Again. I didn't want to answer. But I did. This time, the voice wasn't soft. It was sharp. Wet. And female. Why are you looking for him? It asked. I swallowed hard. Who is this? You should have left the picture alone. The voice was colder than the air in my room. I want my brother, I said. He chose me, she replied. Silence. Then something that sounded like breathing underwater. Before the call cut, she said one last thing. You remember me now, don't you? And then the line went dead. The next morning, I stared at her name. Emma K. High school. The lockers. The funeral. She had been quiet. Strange. Always wearing oversized sweaters and drawing spirals in her notebooks. She sat 2 rows behind David in sophomore bio. They never talked. At least, not that I knew of. But that sentence. You remember me now. Unlocked something. A memory. Something I hadn't thought of in years. A late spring afternoon. David and I walking home. He'd been quiet. Distant. And I remember asking, you okay? And him saying. She sits behind me. She keeps humming. Who? Emma. Like, humming a tune? No. Just my name. I had laughed. Told him to ignore her. That maybe she had a crush. But the look on his face stuck with me. It wasn't flattered. It was scared. She had made him uncomfortable. And a week later, she was dead. I tried to contact her family. Her obituary had listed her parents as living in the same town. I found an address and drove out there. It was a 1-story home with flaking paint and sagging shutters. No answer when I knocked. No cars in the driveway. I peeked through a window. The house was empty. Abandoned. But on the living room wall, written in something red and faded, I saw it again. She never left. That night, I decided to sleep with the light on. I didn't care if it made me feel ridiculous. I was scared. Fully, undeniably scared. And when my phone rang again at 3 a.m., I didn't answer. I let it ring and ring until it stopped. Then a voicemail appeared. I didn't listen to it right away. I sat there, heart pounding, staring at my screen. Then I played it. The recording was 10 seconds long. No voice, just the sound of waves, crashing gently, over and over. And then, at the very end, one whisper, barely audible, a breath against the mic. Come to the water. I didn't want to go. But the message, that whisper, come to the water. It clung to me like damp air, and something inside me knew. I wouldn't get answers unless I went to Acadia, the same place printed on the wedding card, the place where David and Emma had walked hand in hand on a quiet beach, the place where she took him. It was a 6-hour drive. I barely remember any of it. Just trees, miles of empty highway, the gray sky pressing down like a lid. Every few miles, I'd glance in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone sitting in the back seat. But the back seat was always empty. When I finally reached the coast, the sky had turned from gray to gold. Late afternoon light shimmered over the ocean like glass. The park was almost empty, only a few hikers packing up, heading back to their cars. I parked at a trailhead, pulled out the photo. David and Emma, walking barefoot. The shoreline behind them curved to the left. I scanned the coast until I found the same bend, and I followed it. Each step felt heavier, not from exhaustion, from something else, like the ground didn't want me there. When I reached the spot, I stopped. The air was colder here. The breeze smelled wrong, like salt and rot. The sand in front of me looked normal enough, but the waves? They crashed in slow motion. Each one stretched out like the ocean was thinking too hard about every move. And then I saw it. Footprints. One set leading down the beach. And another, smaller set, walking beside them. I followed them both. About 50 feet down, they just ended. No water nearby. No rocks. Just empty sand. Like they'd vanished mid-step. Like the ocean had taken them. I stood there for what felt like hours. Listening. Waiting. Nothing. Just the soft crash of distorted waves. Then my phone buzzed. A text. From a number with no name. No history. Just 3 words. She's behind you. I turned. No one. Nothing. But the air was different. Thicker. Charged. And I swear, just for a second, I could hear her humming. Soft. Deliberate. One note, over and over. I left the beach that night shaking. I drove back to the nearest town and got a room at a roadside motel. The kind with flickering lights and stiff sheets. But it didn't matter. I wasn't going to sleep anyway. I laid awake, staring at the ceiling, her voice still ringing in my ears. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard movement outside. Not footsteps. Dragging. Like someone was pulling something heavy across the gravel lot. Then a knock at my door. 3 slow, even knocks. I stayed frozen in bed. Another knock. Then silence. I sat up, heart racing. Checked the peephole. No one there. But something was on the ground. I opened the door just enough to reach for it. A Polaroid. Still warm. I flipped it over. David. Standing on the beach. Alone. Smiling. Eyes wide open. But wrong. Too wide. Too bright. And beneath his feet, barely visible in the sand, someone had carved a message. Your turn. I packed and left before the sun rose. I didn't know where to go, what to do, who to tell. But it didn't matter. Because when I got home, she'd already been there. My door was unlocked. Lights on. Inside, clean. Undisturbed. Except one thing. On the dining room table sat a wedding card. Same design. Same glossy paper. But this time, it wasn't David's name. It was mine. Just married. My name and Emma. September 12th, Acadia. I dropped the card. Stepped back. Then I noticed something else. On the wall, above the couch. A framed photo I'd never seen before. It was me. Standing at the beach. Holding hands with Emma. Her face still hidden by her hand. But mine? I looked happy. Too happy. The kind of smile that doesn't come from real joy, but from forgetting. I ran to my room. Opened drawers. Closets. Looked for anything she might have touched. That's when I found the note. Sitting on my pillow. 3 lines. In her handwriting. Elegant. Red ink. You found him. You followed. Now you stay. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The house felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. like everything inside had paused, except her. That wedding card, the one with my name on it, sat on the table like a dare. Just married. Me and Emma. September 12th, Acadia. My hands shook as I picked it up again. My name looked natural, like it had always been there. Like the card hadn't been changed, but designed for me. And the date? September 12th. Today. I stumbled back, looked at the wall, the framed photo. Still there. Me and Emma, holding hands. My smile was all wrong, wide and glossy, like a puppet finally freed to grin. And her face, as always, was hidden by her hand. I had never taken that picture, but somehow, it existed. I bolted for the door, didn't pack, didn't grab a coat, just ran. My phone buzzed as I reached the street. A text from David's number, but I knew it wasn't him. The message read, "Running won't work." I kept running anyway. My car started, but the GPS glitched. The screen showed one destination, locked in. Acadia. I yanked the cord, but the screen wouldn't turn off. The voice navigation activated on its own. In 200 miles, arrive at the ceremony. I turned the volume down. Didn't matter. The words were already inside me. I drove for hours, but every road curved back toward the coast. I changed highways, turned down back roads, tried to head west, but signs kept pointing east, toward the ocean. I don't know how long I fought it, but by sunset, I was back at the same trailhead, the beach, the place from the photo, the place from the card. And this time, I didn't fight it. I got out, walked to the shore. No one was there, but something was waiting. The wind died. The waves slowed. And then I saw her, Emma, standing just offshore, ankles deep in the tide. Her hair was soaked, dress clinging to her like skin. She didn't move, didn't speak, just raised one hand and pointed. I followed her finger. There, in the sand, a circle of stones had been laid. And in the center, a small wooden box. I stepped toward it, knees shaking, opened the lid. Inside, a ring. Gold. Simple. Timeless. Fitted exactly to my finger. And beneath it, a note. Say yes. I backed away. No, I whispered. But the air around me shifted. The tide pulled back. The clouds churned. And Emma, still standing there, tilted her head. She wasn't threatening me. She was waiting. Waiting to be accepted. Waiting to be claimed. I thought of David. Of his silence. His absence. His upside-down smile. And I understood. He had said yes. And now it was my turn. I picked up the ring. It burned cold in my hand. I stared out at Emma. Her hand still raised. Still waiting. And then, I dropped the ring into the box. Snapped the lid shut. And whispered, "I didn't come for you." The air cracked. The water froze mid-surge. And her hand dropped. I stepped back. The wind howled. And then, I ran. Not away, but into the sea. I don't remember what happened after that. I remember the cold. I remember the dark. I remember her voice, just inches from mine, whispering over and over, "You should have said yes." When I woke up, I was lying on the sand. Alone. It was morning. The tide had rolled back. The stones were gone. The box gone. So was the photo. The framed print in my house. The wedding card. Even my call log with David was wiped. The name, Emma, no longer appeared on anything. It was like she'd never existed. Like none of it had. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And every night at 3 a.m., I still hear waves crashing. And a woman humming just outside my window. She's still waiting. Because I never said yes.